then let's roll. It's wasting time. We can do it on the fly. Or if we find a nice spot.
Yeah. No, I better find something.
Are we? Well, morning everyone. Welcome to Wild Earth. And welcome to our morning safari. A little bit chilly this morning. Very exciting morning. And I'm going to get going. I'll talk to you about it as we're moving along. I was about to head on. We're waiting for you to join us. The sun has just risen. And we're about to head out and explore this wonderful part of Thornybush Game Reserve. Exciting because cats were calling. Our mission is cats at the moment. Okay, I need to remember about the handbrake. Now, where we're heading right now, we just left camp. We're heading down towards the Thornybush River, a little bit northeast of camp. And I want to make my way along the Thornybush River towards a little bit further west because cats were calling from there. I want to eliminate whether they've come to the east from that part of the world. And quite an interesting thing happening here with the cats. The lion dynamics. We've been talking about lion this morning in particular, and the dynamics that are taking place at the moment, which is something that I'm hoping we're going to be a part of. This is a time in the existence of the prides here at Thornybush when there are things happening, things are changing. Okay, Jigger's cold, doesn't not like these patches of soft sand. So, a lot of you staying up to watch us. Welcome to Africa. Welcome to a lovely little corner of Africa called Thornybush Game Reserve. I'm sitting with my ear because the jacket keeps pulling it out even though I've got it under my arm. There we go. So, Thornybush Game Reserve to the west of the Kruger National Park. Now, just outside Thornybush are several areas that are incorporated, private areas I might add, that are incorporated into Kruger. Makes it very, very difficult to keep track of things. However, here at Thornybush, matters are a little bit different. And it's a self-contained area, so there's a finite number of things like lion and elephant and certain animals, because baboon tracks. Now we had baboon calling down here too this morning, so I wanted to start here just to have a look at tracks of theirs and see if there was anyone else amongst them. But here at Thornybush, the species that we might concentrate on, there can only be a certain number of them because they are either vibrating. That's not good. I think it's that little plate under the car. Okay, welcome back. And I'm going to hold off on what I was telling you for now. It's going to see if this signal holds with animal tracks and following them. One has to use many different cues. And it starts off with waking up in the morning and listening. In fact, it doesn't start. It's an ongoing thing. It's keeping one's senses tuned to the bush at all times. Waking up in the middle of the night at the sound of distant lion, because the brain, it's like the subconscious needs to know these things, so kind of I wake up and I'm conscious of it, and I'm trying to pick up on direction so that when I am up in the morning, I'm keeping my ears open for those last few calls just before daybreak. It can happen that they call after daybreak, but not really that often. It's not a common thing. And this morning, after waking up, we could hear these lions calling. And it sounded fairly close. Close enough that I thought we would pick up tracks, fresh tracks. But they might have been down in the river. What we want to do is make our way back there. I haven't found anything fresh. I haven't found any sign of them that gets my blood going a little bit. Inevitable that in some of these really deep, what we call drainage lines, dry riverbeds, seasonal rivers, riverbeds that carry excess flood water to the main rivers. Some of them are relatively deep, from hundreds of years of runoff, and it's inevitable that those dips take us out of signal range completely. I was saying, starting off in the morning with audible cues, and also listening out for other things, listening out for things like baboons barking, other alarm calls, birds shouting. Unfortunately this morning I haven't heard much. Possible that what was wrong earlier this morning was just a temperature issue, maybe a bit of condensation with some of the equipment, as well as software. I don't know, combination of the two maybe. Not my area of expertise, but it seems to be fine now. I'm hoping it'll be fine from here on. Head further back east. There we go. Another one. This road. Southeast. Even tracks. grey-headed bush shrike. You heard that. Also known as the ghost bird, or in local parlance, spookvoël. Because that's more or less like not quite an alarm call, but it's a different call to its usual call, which is and it's also ventriloquial, so very, very hard to find it from that call. That little sort of screech that we heard is, well, I can't translate it because it's not very clever. It's just shouting at us. I mean, it's rude. It's censored it. Just in case the young grey-headed bush shrike's listening. Shivambalana in the road. Little emerald spotted wood dove. Cats, you really got me working today. Okay. We're heading back down towards the Thornybush River. Everything's looking good. Waiting to make sure that everything is running fine. I was telling you about Thornybush and the fact that it is a self-contained reserve. Now, for a lot of animals who, I'd say, let me start this all over again. You know, for all the animals within Thornybush has a carrying capacity, and each species, there is a critical number of each species that can be accommodated in the space that Thornybush occupies, albeit 30,000 hectares or 70,000 acres. A lot of the smaller species tend to sort themselves out with territories, or the numbers tend to sort of balance out because of predation, because of territory size, and so it doesn't need to be that much of management of certain species. But other species, management is quite critical. Elephant in particular, because you can't let elephant reach numbers that exceed the carrying capacity. But if we talk about lion, once again, there is a limit to the number of lion prides based on the size of their territories, also based on the availability of prey, being those carrying capacities of the prey species like zebra, wildebeest, kudu, maybe eland, giraffe, buffalo. And with the local prides alliance, there can't really be, excuse me, sorry, I've got a lump. There can't be too many dominant males in an area because you just never get cubs reaching adulthood. What we have here at Thornybush, up in the north, is a big male known as Marvin. And Marvin mostly holds sway up in what we call the northern part of Thornybush. Thornybush is divided into the southern and northern, and not necessarily because of the river, more because of, I guess, landowners and particularly radio signals. So they differentiate between the northern and southern. But Marvin is getting a little bit on in years, and the way lions work, the way the whole pride of lion works, is that when a male holds sway over territory, he can only do so for a limited number of years, because if he's dominant in the territory for too long and he's producing offspring, there's a fair likelihood that after a while he's going to be breeding with his own offspring. And it is vital that the gene pool remains strong, and the only way for that to happen is for a bigger, stronger, more virile, maybe better gene pool to come in from another male or males, because you've got to remember that lion are not necessarily just one male within a pride. We can have coalitions of 2. I've known coalitions of even 7. There's even been a group of 12 young males moving around, although by the time they reached adulthood there were no longer 12 of them. Let's go through this dip. That's the purple-crested Zuri, or rather the purple-crested Turako, one of the most beautiful birds we have here. Something we didn't have in the Sabi Sand, northern Sabi Sand. Something I don't have at home in the Tipabati. One only finds them along permanent rivers, big trees, thick riparian vegetation. Now, about Marvin and what is happening here is an important time in the life of the lion prides, because this rotation of males is imminent here in Thornybush. There's a young male who has been around this part of Thornybush, who is reaching maturity. He's going to be challenging. I don't think he's offspring of Marvin. Now Marvin, I'm told, I haven't seen him yet, is a big old male. He's battle beaten, he's scarred, he's supposedly an ugly brute, although I don't really term anything ugly, but just for the sake of the story right now, he's not a he's not a very clean looking male lion. And this is a leopardess trap last night. Female came this way. I'm going to keep track of her tracking. Whereas this young male, of course, he hasn't been scrapping too much, so he's still quite a good looking young male, but I think it's reaching time for him to maybe make a few moves on Marvin. And he's been calling, evidently, which has brought Marvin a little bit further down. But what makes it very, very interesting is that with him calling, he's brought in another big male from somewhere else. Now, I heard on the radio a little while ago that they are at one of the gates to Thornybush, with a young male on one side and another big male on the outside, probably eyeing each other out, knowing full well that they can't get at each other just yet. They don't have a key. Even if they had a key, they don't have opposable thumbs. But with these two males, with all this happening, obviously Marvin's coming down to see what's going to be happening in his territory, because there are other lion in his territory. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to somehow find them and keep track of them. Of course, finding them is the key. And not as easy as people might think. They don't just lie around waiting to be seen. Trigger calling. This cat went through here somewhere. There are not many of the game drive vehicles that drive around in this part of the world, and to some extent that helps me out because they're not driving over tracks that I would like to find or follow. But it is a bit of a disadvantage in that if there were other vehicles driving down here, of course it would mean that we would have a greater chance of finding someone cat-wise. Sulphur-breasted bush shrike, pretty bird. This one we're going to have to unhook things. We're now almost in the river, the Bavaki River. We're on a little bit of a floodplain. Maybe there's a cat coming this way. Yeah, sitting in the sun. We're high enough to be above the reeds.
Yeah, but
No, it's gone now. Burchell's cuckoo. Rainbird is also known as the water bottle bird. Beautiful liquid bubbling call in the summer during the rain. Doesn't call at all in the dry season. Yeah, the leopard's still on the road, eh? Got leopard tracks there. Might have been who the baboon were barking at this morning. If they were in their trees on that side of the river, they could have seen a cat walking here. Here, kitty, kitty. The freshest tracks I guess I've had so far are these tracks that we're on right now. And cold mornings like this, with a lot of dew, cat is going to be walking on the road more than through this kind of grass. Unless, of course, an opportunity arises for it to hunt. I'm hoping that these gaps where I can't see any tracks, I'm hoping that it's still walking, that when I eventually find a sandy patch of ground, that I'll find some more tracks, or a little bit muddy, nice little sand up ahead, little sandy patch. And let's see if she was here again as well. Could be there, in that, yeah, there, I think in that tire track. Mostly only my tire tracks that I can see here. Now, there we go, well. And I'm hoping soon too, with the equipment that we're waiting for up on the mountain. When that happens, then we'll be able to get up there and go and find Marvin and interact with the drives further north and maybe wait in line for some of the sightings. Just check if these tracks of the cat came up here or if it went back to the river. There's another crossing behind us. River crossing. Yeah, doesn't look like anything here. We're still going to carry on this way for now. And this gets us to the fence line, unfortunately. The kind of road that gives us a good indication of what's been moving in this part of the world. It's nice, flat, open sand, and it gives us an idea of what's crossing coming down to the river in this far southeastern corner. So what I'm going to do, even if we have to see the fence, cross the river over there, because this cat has been walking east. She hasn't come up to this road by the looks of things. She's crossed this road, which means still down towards the river. Probably walking parallel to the river. As much as I'd love to find a lion, which is a mission, a main task of mine right now. When we've got tracks, we just try and stick to the tracks that we got. Whether she sticks to the river or comes up to these pans. Now the other thing we cannot do, even if I find tracks that leave the road, we can't just go off-road looking willy-nilly. The only time I really can go into the bush. Some hammercorp fishing with a greenback heron. And blacksmith lapwings. Oh, off goes the heron. Aha. Baboon have seen something. This could be her. Um,
Do you want to go there?
yeah,
Yeah, let's go.
I don't want to. When baboon, it was a child. It wasn't an adult baboon, but it was still a baboon bar. This cat has been walking to the east, and it can't go very much further than the fence line, which is probably, which I guess becomes the edge of her territory. It's all about trying to be the animal. It's all about trying to think about how they behave, what their movements are like. You can never predict this. I mean, this is animal behavior is something that is, it can never be written about. You can never say that this is what a leopard does, because every leopard is different in every area. Every leopard is different to every other leopard or lion, for any matter, any animal for that matter, rather. No, that's kudu. Ooh, look at that kudu in that line. Just stop and listen again. See if we got any other alarm calls. Tell me when to stop.
A little bit more? A little bit more? More? Yeah, there we go.
Kudu, nyala, and the young male kudu. Unfortunately, we've got a bush in the way to see the nyala, and there's the saddlebull stork still here. Come on, kudu. There's that greenbacked heron on the branch in front of the kudu now. They're not too concerned about anything yet.
What's it moving that tree that way? Just off left of where the kudu was standing. A monkey?
It might be behind this bush.
Yeah, it
But
is.
there's
behind-
also a woolly neck stalk up there in that dead tree. Oh, I see that tree moving now. I don't think it's moving enough to be elephants. Cooking pan. Sadly. Okay, just quickly. I know I wanted to. Oh, hippo in the road. This flower. Let's get this flower because in the afternoon it has sun on it. It's a beautiful creeper. It's really an incredible flower. And I can't remember what it is for the life of me. I'm not even sure if it's indigenous. Or maybe it's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm gonna just go and have a closer look, take a still photograph, and I can discover it. So, excuse me a moment. not the purple I was thinking of. It's a different purple flower. Anyway, that's my flower for the ladies this morning. For those of you who are still awake and still with us. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't get. I wish I got that on camera.
Should I try that again?
Try that again.
I went slip. You're supposed to flip around my and then land in my ear. This is my communication device. And yes, I'm not going to do that again. Leopard weren't barking enough. Okay, I will try and post this photograph on the Thornybush Traverses page, or on mine, or both, and I will try and find an answer on its name for those of you who follow me in my flowers. Uh-oh, it's got a berry too. There's nothing like a wisteria really. Not quite that this wisteria shape. What I would like to do, a drongo or hupu really. I'm going to catch you on camera. Hello drongo. You're a little one, aren't you? Although the baboon were barking, now if the baboon were barking and they were going a little bit more frantic, they were a little more frantic and going a bit wilder, then I would have rushed over there. What is this? Hyena tracks. Primates have got one of the, we've only got two diurnal primates here really. The Chacma baboon and the vervet monkey. Oh, come on, jigger. I suppose it's me, it's not the jigger. It's the sequence of my feet on the pedals. Chacma baboon, vervet monkeys, both arboreal, both species diurnal. We have two species of nocturnal primates, but I won't get into that right now, that's a different story. But the eyesight of both vervets and baboon is very acute, very, very good eyesight, and they're constantly on the lookout for predators, in particular the main predators of the two primate species. In fact, to a large extent, some of the smaller herbivores like to be around the primates because the primates are always in the trees. They've always got a lookout in the trees, and they're often the first to spot danger. In terms of what their different alarm calls mean, that might be here on the stand. Maybe we could drive there. So there's a different call for leopard, there's a different call for lion, there's a different call for snake or eagle, because there are eagles that prey on these primates, there are snakes that will prey on the primates. And it's important when an animal is giving off an alarm call, something like a monkey, or even with some of the birds for that matter, even the mongoose species, they have a different word or a different shout, different call for, sorry Rob, putting the antenna back. Beautiful. For me, it's one of my favorite little crossings. with these lovely big white thorn acacias. Acacia polyacantha. Little deep cut. African hawk eagle. It's just behind the trees. You see, now that's something that the baboon could have shouted at. And unfortunately, it just flew a circle around the back of these big trees.
It's gone now.
Was that fun? Should we do that again? We'll do it again another day. Right on the eastern boundary of the southern eastern boundary. There's a tree that it's almost as though it grew. There's the other. They must be nesting here, because that other hawk eagle's just flown out of these trees. I don't know if you can pick that up, but that tree over there, it's almost as though it's grown for a leopard to be in it.
That one that's bent.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just put the camera in.
There are a couple here that I like that too.
Yeah, it's a good spot for a leopard, that. Water shining on this branch above us.
Yes, the reflection. That's pretty. Lovely morning calls of the birds. Little symphony. Even these branches up here on the left. Oh, flat branches that are crying for leopard. There goes the other eagle again. Definitely. There is the nest up there. It's nice to know an African hawk eagle nest. I'm sorry to disturb them. You can get that nest.
Quite a nice spot for them, huh?
It is. I have a pair of African hawk eagles at home, and I see almost on a daily basis. One of my favorite eagles. They have an incredible hunting technique. They hunt as a pair, they hunt cooperatively, where one of the pair acts as a decoy, flying just above the tree line, circling fairly low. The one that shows itself to the guinea fowl and the francolins. Now the African hawk eagles are predominantly avian predators, and I've seen them. I've had them taking weaver birds right in front of me. I've seen them take francolins and guinea fowl. I've seen an African hawk eagle on a scrub hare, and that's a scrub hare that didn't go to bed when it was supposed to. The scrub hares are nocturnal and the hawk eagles are diurnal. Some little scrub hare was still out one morning, didn't go to bed and got caught by an eagle. But the one flying just above the tree line will distract the prey and call to its mate, who will then come down below the tree line through the trees unseen and take it out. And then they'll share the prey, of course, they'll share it. They mate for life, as do most eagles. There's another eagle that hunts very much the same way, cooperatively, which we won't have here because it's a montane species. It mostly lives in the mountains and areas where there are big rock faces for it to nest on, known as the Vero's eagle, also known as the black eagle. It used to be a black eagle, now it's the Vero's eagle. Now, I don't know if this cat crossed the river, and I can almost guarantee where this cat is, but I'm not going to be able to get the vehicle there to see it. Unless their tracks have it coming across this side. But this is where the baboons are, so they haven't been indicating that there's a cat on this side. So that cat is somewhere on that side of the river. A leopard. Sometimes you just have to be on the right road at the right time early in the morning before the cats sort of bed down for the day while they're still walking to be able to catch them. Time to take the jacket off. Those buffalo tracks. Buffalo a little bit big for leopard. Although I've known big male leopard to take young buffalo to kill them. Baby buffalo. I once had a big male leopard on one of my overnight walking safaris in East Africa. Killed a baby giraffe. Actually took it up into a tree. Actually, we saw the next morning walk. The first day we saw the giraffe in the tree. The second day, the second morning was amazing. We saw 3 cats within about 100 meters. We got to the giraffe in the tree, and there was another leopard that came down the tree, and then the big male that had killed the giraffe was nearby. And then just leaving that area, we found a lioness coming towards the giraffe in the tree. All of this on foot. But those are anomalies. I mean, those are unusual events. It's more impala size. Hello, Jippos. Egyptian geese just coming into land at that muddy section behind us. Waterhole. between here, we're now on the southern bank, just off of the river. The river's 50, 60 yards to the north of us. And we're on the road on the northern bank going east. We're now on the southern bank heading west. So we've done almost a loop. That leopard comes into this area, but we just can't get close enough to the river. We can't get down there to see anything. Big buffalo. And I'm not seeing any sign of her crossing the river and coming this way. The amount of baboon tracks, we did see the baboon here yesterday afternoon, all heading down here. And my guess is that the baboon live in these trees at night. This is their sleeping spot. Can't go much further. This is one of the owner's houses down here, and we don't want to disturb, so we're looking for tracks. Hi. What?
I said hi.
Oh.
You stole the vehicle.
No, I didn't. I switched off to listen. There's some spider web here. Gossamer strands. Yes, I do that quite a bit, don't I? What's the sand? Gets into sand and she sort of says you need more gas. And I give it too little. Action replay. There's a little boy in all of us. I don't think mine's ever left. Now, in the time that we've been across the river, maybe if we're lucky, these cats have been moving around on this side of the river. Maybe, always a possibility that the tracks on top of my tracks from this morning. I did it when we went live, when we were waiting for things to happen, when we were waiting to come back to you. We did some loops looking for some tracks. I found what I thought were some tracks. They were a little bit old, but it wasn't. It was a big male leopard. And sometimes it can be a little soft sand when their toes are splayed out. Big male can look like a small female. Big male leopard can look like a small lioness, young lioness. There's subtle differences to the tracks between lion and leopard. Obviously size plays a big role, because they're different sized cats. But where a lion's track is pretty much egg shaped, and so are the toes are also pretty much oval shaped. A leopard's is very round. When you draw a line around a leopard track, you get a very round circle. And when you look at the track, the individual toes of a leopard track, they are more rounded. But that's generally speaking. Sometimes in different sandy soils and different, when the toes spread out a little bit, it needs closer scrutiny. And sometimes I just glance at it thinking, oh, that's a lion, and meanwhile it's been a male leopard. These are the tracks of the baboon coming home last night. You know what I think we ought to do? What's the other crossing? Let's have a look down at the river over here. I don't think we've been down here this morning. Aha! She crossed over here, and she's come up from this crossing and she's gone back that way. So our leopard isn't where I really thought she was. Crossed the river down here and went back the other way.
Doing a lot of reversing.
Yeah. This needs, there she goes there, there she goes there. I need to get out before I drive over all these tracks. There she goes there. I'm just gonna have a look. We had a four-way junction. She'll have gone a fifth way. But no, she was stuck to the road. It's consistent with the direction that she's been moving in, which would get it onto the fence line and bring it. Let's see if we can go around this way. But there's a vervet, but it's watching me. But he's alert. And no alarm calls. That's one of the reasons why I've possibly lost tracks. Now, as I said earlier, cats will walk along the road, especially early morning, and leopards, when they leave, they'll leave the road, especially with these overhanging quarries. Now, I was sniffing leaves. I was trying to pick up the scent, the pheromone scent, or the territorial spraying scent of a leopard. Now, what she would do is, while she's walking through her territory, wherever she's going, she'll be scent marking, and what she does is she'll back up lift her tail and back up towards the quarry, possibly even those lower branches, and spray mark her territory, and it has a very, very distinct smell. And obviously, the fresher it is, the stronger the aroma. People have likened it to the smell of buttered popcorn. To me, it's sort of a hint of that. It's a very, very distinctive smell. Now, they don't necessarily walk in a straight line all the time. One can't guarantee that once the leopard is on a particular path and it's moving in a particular direction, it's going to stay there. Much like me, they can get distracted very, very easily, and you can find that a cat will sort of do a 90-degree angle. But generally, judging by the tracks that we've been seeing all along, she's been walking along roads. To my mind, that means is that she's patrolling territory. She's therefore marking territory at the same time. I'm trying to pick up the smell of her urine, or her urine scent marking. There are two choices. She either went up that road or she went up that road, and I don't think she went up either. We've come down that road. We didn't see any tracks on that road. I've taken a little walk up this road to have a look, and I don't see anything up there. It's quite hard packed soil, but I'm seeing the toes of baboons, and I'm seeing the other subtle tracks up there, but nothing that tells me she went there. So I think she's gone into this block. So we're going to go back this way. We might hit that fence line again, but we've got another area where I know she's gone into, much as the same as I thought she'd gone into this block. But now, having found her tracks, a block it's not necessarily a square area as you would have in a city block, because these roads aren't necessarily all straight roads. But when one does continual, say, right turns or left turns, and you come back to the same place you were, that area that you've surrounded, that area might be a ring, it might be no shape at all that one can describe. But if you've done all the roads around a particular area where you think a cat is, and there are no tracks coming out, you can be pretty sure that the cat is in that particular area. I was completing a block by crossing the river where we did it, a lovely big crossing where the African hawk eagles were, and coming around here. This road that she's come across is a road that we crossed the river on. She would have got her feet wet. Actually, it's not very wide, that spot down there. She could easily have just jumped across the water.
Never get your top on the bonnet.
Don't forget my top on the bonnet. Thanks. I did forget my top on the bonnet. Do you think I could? No, that's being lazy. So once again, we're going to head down here. We're going to do another loop around this area. Try and isolate where she is. If we don't find her this morning, it's always this afternoon. And it's a matter of, sometimes it can take days. Sometimes we can monitor the movement of an animal like a leopard or lion. Making sure we know where they are in a particular block, and then the next day you come and you do pretty much the same block and see which way they've left, and you will invariably find tracks on the road heading away from that area. And once again, you can isolate them to a particular area and not find them for a few days. But just because we find tracks doesn't mean we're going to always find the cat immediately. There is a camp in here, there is an old homestead, and there are old buildings. And there are also not any roads going in here that we can get to see where she might have gone. The fewer roads in a particular area, the greater the block, the less chance there is. For the guides who are guiding guests, it's a little bit easier because one parks the vehicle and you take your rifle and your tracker and you actually go in and track on foot. I'm not really at liberty to do that over here. I have to just try and rely on my other wits and knowledge and experience. But unfortunately it's getting to that time of the day when it's possible that she's gonna hole up for the day. But here we now have a road that sort of bisects the path of her movement. This lovely big road. So let's have a look. That's not a very big area that she's walked. I want to see if we'll find any tracks of hers coming out. She's actually heading straight to camp, believe it or not. We're going to do a big loop around camp. And hopefully I'll find some tracks coming out. Now, from this afternoon, moving forward, going onwards, these moments that I'm busy doing things that we're not seeing animals, and these are the moments when I'm going to be talking to you and I'm going to be answering your questions on subjects that you want to know about. Because there are times, sometimes when I'm thinking, I'm on tracks and I'm thinking, if I'm not answering questions, I might be quiet for a little bit, because I'm trying to put it together in my head, trying to keep track of all these roads and figure out where a cat could have gone. She hasn't come out this way that I can see. Which means she might have skirted camp, might have even come straight through camp for that matter. Being a female, as far as I know in this area, it would only be the mother. A leopard we call Malawan. It's a leopard who's about 11 years old. She's had 4 litters. Her current litter, 2 males, 2 young males, and of course with a 2.5-year-old male who hasn't really left her territory. He's the guy who's got quite big tracks who I've been seeing. He spends a lot of time with her and his siblings. Rather unusual behavior for leopards. Although we have seen this in the past with different generations being together. But she's left the youngsters somewhere and she's walking around. There's a cissus, the Thornybush creeper. The yellowish one, yeah. Not very healthy. Round leaf cissus. Cissus fecundifolia. Excuse me. Brian will confirm with me the email address just before we close down for you to email later. Send in questions. Now, let's head down here and see. This is almost once again bisecting the path that she was walking on. Further down this road we go without finding her tracks means that either she's still in this area, which is where camp is, or she has made a sharp angled turn and she's gone somewhere else. Nothing. It's the bottom of the road down there where we saw the track, where I was out of the vehicle. Suppose we could wander down this power line. I'm not fond of power lines, but for the purposes of finding tracks and cats, we'll make it. Here's the big male. Well, the male, but it's 2 days old. There are a lot of smaller tracks of birds and dwarf mongoose. On top of it, dwarf mongoose would have been from yesterday. Aha, what's that? There's something. Caught. Aha, there, looks like.
Yeah.
There. Vervet. There we go. That's what I want to hear. Vervet monkeys shouting. So I hope you don't mind, I'm reversing again. Key now to find these primates. Somewhere there. Duikers, look, the duiker that's just come out of there. Duikers looking in there. keep your eye out for that little flash of white in the tip of the tail. Warthog running up towards us from out there, up in front of us. Okay, I'm just going to stop because the warthog are also looking in there. We're getting a lot closer now because there's a lot of action happening all around us. Right down the bottom of this road, which is more or less where I was walking, where those warthog are. Mother warthog has rushed out of the bushes down there, looked back into these bushes. This duiker came out of the bushes, was looking back in. So this leopard is still moving through these bushes. We need to get back up onto that top road. They're calling from down there. Those monkeys can see the leopard. Only thing is no road down there. I don't know if she's hunting or she's just moving. The thing is that if she was hunting, she wouldn't be hunting now because she's been seen. Although it's not as audible as the monkey's alarm calls, the warthog would have given off an alarm. And the duiker doesn't give off an alarm call. What we're hoping to see is a little white flash of the tail as the leopard walks through. Once she's been seen, there's no need for secrecy. Once the animal's alarming at her, or him for that matter, because we're not going to be talking about this particular instance, but in terms of a leopard moving around, trying to be stealthy, trying to be unseen. Once it's seen, there's no point in hiding anymore because everything will be alert. And when it comes to hunting, for any of the predators for that matter, not only with the leopard, surprise is the key to a successful hunt. Once you've been seen, there's no chance of hunting or being successful for that matter. Road in there. Even if I could go off-road, there's no ways we can get in here. It's a wall of quarry and acacia. Sometimes with leopard, when the monkeys are shouting at them, they'll just go to ground. They'll just lie down because to continue moving, it's just going to continue. It's going to be a sort of a domino principle. The alarm calls will just keep following it because everything will be alert. But if it lies down, the monkeys get bored after a while. They move on. They've got to go off and feed. And then it doesn't take very long, a few minutes perhaps, before everything forgets. They've got short memories to some degree. And everybody forgets that there was a leopard around here, and then she'll get up and she'll carry on. And I think the monkey's alarm calls were perhaps a little bit too far to have been audible with the microphone. It was quite frantic. It was the kind of calls that I know from experience, from hearing it and from being in it so many times, that the leopard was pretty close to them. And that they had a visual of her. They were actually watching her while they were shouting at her. the intensity of those calls diminishes the less they see of her. As she starts moving away, and maybe they just get glimpses, the calls become less frantic. And then after a while, you only have the youngsters calling. After a while, it's just the little ones. And then you know that the leopard's out of sight of the primate. Well, this is also taking us back towards the area where we heard the lion calling, so we might pick up on their track. And for the rest of the morning, I'm going to concentrate on this little block. I think we should maybe go back to that road where the dike and the woodcock were. Mix of emotions. That initial burst of adrenaline, she's here finding the tracks, and then how it builds up because we find the tracks, we find more signs that it's fresh, and then that one key thing is the alarm call of the prey animal, and that is sort of the what can I say, justification? No. The final confirmation that we're on the right track, that all this little bit of tracking that we've done from the other side of the river, in fact, coming through the river, through the water, doing blocks, reversing here and reversing there. It might all seem random at the time because you're only seeing me and you're not seeing the tracks and you're only seeing the vehicle on the road. But if I can narrate it as I go along well enough, then it should keep you well enough informed. So we're going back along the road we just come along. It is almost parallel to the river. So to give you an idea, she was walking on the other side of the river, heading east, which is where we're going now. We're much further up from the river. She headed east up to a point just shortly before that fence line and that very wet, marshy, muddy area that we came through after crossing the river. She skipped that. She crossed the river. We came back. We picked up her tracks again, crossing the river. And she had almost done a 90-degree after crossing the river and then coming up this way. To go further to the west would mean that she would have done a 180-degree turn, which is not impossible. Just at this stage of the game, not that likely. And I think she's still coming up this way. Leopard, to a lot of people, are these solitary, nocturnal, secretive animals. No, they are not. I've seen, of all of the three big cats, I've seen actually, well, no, I can't really include cheetah because they are diurnal predators anyway. So, of the two big cats, lion and leopard, I've seen more action out of leopard during the day than I've seen out of lion during the day. In some places, most places. Some places that I've been up in East Africa, the lion don't even hunt until midday. And it's what I was saying a lot earlier about animal behavior. Is you can't write a book, you can't write things about animal behavior. Because there are some things that are so random, and especially being opportunists, when it happens, it happens. It's not that it has to be at night, or it has to be at a certain time, or there has to be a certain frequency, or everything has to be random. Everything has to be, there has to be a huge unknown factor, an unpredictable factor when it comes to predators and prey. Now there's this little water. I doubt whether she's going to need to drink. I'm just going to stop and listen for monkeys again and see if they're not calling now. I mean, we came probably within 50 to 100 meters of this leopard. Just missed her walking on the road. We just happened to probably be on the wrong road at the wrong time. and be in a place where it's very, very dense. However, this is typical leopard territory. This is the kind of stuff that they love to hang out in. Especially if she's got cubs. It's an ideal place to leave the cubs, to go off and mark her territory, maintain her territorial boundaries, as well as perhaps catch a daker or an impala or catch something to eat, warthog. Okay, we're just going to have to go back down this road and have a look. I haven't even seen any of these monkeys. They were quite far in. But one normally finds them at the top of the trees. When there's a leopard around, monkeys will tree themselves into the topmost branches, the thinnest branches, because a leopard can get into a tree as well. And being a little bit heavier, can't get to the really thin branches and the ends of the branches that monkeys can hang in. There's a woodpecker just flying across our bow. Oh, pussycat, pussycat. And show yourself. Everybody wants to see you. Already. Why I say what we need to look for is that white tip to the tails, because leopards' tails have a mind of their own. Sometimes they get leopards into trouble because that tail's constantly, especially when they're walking, and the underneath and tip of the tail is white. And white is a very, very noticeable color in this environment. I mean, it stands out. This is why one doesn't really wear white in the bush. If you ever come to Africa and you come on safari, please don't wear white. One might think it's a nice color because it's cool. Also, it won't stay white very long and it won't ever get white again. But when a leopard is walking, the tip of the tail is sort of in body language, and just the wonderful way leopards are. That tail is just constantly just flicking up, and it gives the leopard away. So many times I've seen leopard hunting, young leopard, inexperienced leopard that are hunting. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, because this is where I was walking, was right here, coming up to see. There's the bush I was smelling. She had come up here. And obviously, instead of going into this block that I thought she might have gone into that block. I wouldn't be surprised if she was watching me, because it's timing is pretty much the same thing. Is that when we were here and we did that big loop around, by the time we came around to the top there, the monkeys were shouting, and it would have put her very, very close to us, in fact. And all I can really do is circle this block. I don't think she's going to come out of it today. Here I am saying that's unpredictable and you can't really tell what they're going to do, and I'm saying I don't think she's going to come out. But I don't think so. It's starting to get hot. The monkeys have seen her. Probably going to lie up for a while. but I'm not giving up. This cat is in here. So she didn't quite go through camp. She skirted camp by coming in here. I can hear some bulbuls. Maybe she's still walking, and the time that we're looking, she'll come out on the other side by the time we get to the other side. It's going to be impossible to follow a leopard through this anyway, vehicle-wise. Very, very dense area. The entrance that we're just turning away from, the entrance to... Oh, you didn't get it. The entrance to one of the lodges of Thornybush, which is actually, I think, more for the owners than the shareholders, rather than for guests. Okay, we've given her enough time to come through this way. And if she doesn't emerge as she was meant to, then I'm going to fire her and we'll just put an ad in for another leopard to come in.
Brand new leopard, eh?
Yeah, we'll just have to do a few interviews and see if we can get a leopard that listens to instruction. Community of boobies and a giant gardenia. So in the closing minutes of our morning drive, it's been... Hang on, what's that noise? Been a little quiet. I have to just mention that we are going to have some quiet drives. Game is very spread out at the moment. Bush is still very thick, and it's not a case of not wanting to show you anything. It's a case of we've just started. It's going to take us a little bit of time to work out animal movement, but also for us to find them. We could have a couple of days of really great animal sightings, and then a couple of days like this where we're not going to see much. But that is how it works. This is Africa. This is wild, untamed. Everything happens at random. Animals move in very large areas. They cover ground and they're in a different place every day. So before I sign off this morning, so that you can get ready for this afternoon, we've got 2 email addresses for you to think of. And we will, well, the email addresses are on the Wild Earth homepage, but just to inform you now, if you're going to ask me questions about the the wildlife that we're seeing and about the bush and about Africa, you can send those to Drive Questions. It's one word, Drive Questions at wildearth.tv. And if you have any feedback that's not related to the animals and feedback regarding questions on technical issues or other feedback that you'd like to give us, that can come to Drive Feedback at wildearth.tv. And that's all lowercase letters, Drive Feedback, one word, Drive Questions, one word, and at wildearth.tv. Just remember it's .tv, not .com or anything. wildearth.tv. And no good really sending any questions now. We are going to no doubt have a lot of questions to answer on our afternoon drive, and it's not so much a case of first come first served. It is to some degree, but when there are a lot of questions, whoever's directing is going to have to screen the questions, and it's their prerogative to be able to find those questions that are the most pertinent to either what we're seeing or what we have seen, or to the life of the animals and the bush around us. If I don't get to your question on a particular drive and you feel that the question is of course an important one, by all means wait for the next drive and send it again. I will go through questions. I will try and see if there are questions that I didn't get to that I can answer, but it's not going to be possible. If we've got 500 questions and we only get to 20 during the drive, it's not going to be possible for me to physically answer all of them, as much as I would love to. But please don't get despondent and say, oh well, they're never answering our questions, because it is a little bit of like a lotto. And well, I'm anticipating a lot of questions. I'm hoping you're going to send in a lot of questions. I'm hoping we're going to have a great time with it. Nice big lump of elephants. Elephants, those big grey things, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, this is one of those small furry spotted, oh yes, the leopard.
Yeah, leopards. That's cool.
Well, it's a fairly big leopard. Get it in front of us there. A nice lump of, it's got an idea about its diet. There is hair in it, and the darkness tells me that it was a heavy meat diet, the blood and meat. This is towards the end of the kill, what this leopard has been eating. See, when a leopard is eating an animal, at first it goes for the really soft parts, the juicy bits with a lot of blood and a lot of meat, so as well as lion for that matter. At first the dung is very wet and very dark because of the blood and the meat. But later on in the carcass, when they're starting to eat the skin and they're consuming fur, things that the cats don't digest particularly is hair or fur and bone. And so towards the end of a carcass, that's when you'll find these items. Just before I sign off, because we're nearly there, I'm just going to go a little bit further on. This dung, by the way, is about 2 days old. It's not very fresh, but it does say that they've been eating, and it does give me a little bit of confidence in that. The reason why we didn't find any tracks yesterday, why we haven't found any fresh tracks, is because they've obviously been on a kill somewhere, and they're now finally moving around again. But this is where I found their tracks from 2 days ago. My footprints, I don't know why I didn't see that dung 2 days ago. My footprints are there. There's somewhere around here they've had a kill, and it's quite possible that it's in this block that's been on our left, where I think this leopard has been, and that she's left the youngsters here to finish off on this kill. She's done a loop around to do some territory marking and some spray marking, and it'll be interesting in the next day or two to see how they're going to move from this area, because they have to move from this area. But good indication with that dung that it's been sort of close to the end of the kill with all the hair in it. And we can be sure that we're a lot closer this morning than we were last night. And each drive that we go on and we pick up tracks and things, we're going to get closer and closer. So this is all about staying tuned. It's not going to happen immediately. Sometimes we're lucky, we can drive out of camp and have a leopard sitting there. Sometimes they're on the road. Sometimes they make us work for the privilege of viewing them. My name is Mark, with a C. Robin with an R on an N.
B.
Yeah, well, Brian's also got a B and an I and an R and an N. Not an I.
No, Y.
Oh, it's Brian with a Y.
Brian with a Y.
Why? Why? Brian with a Y. Brian with a Y. Mark with a C. Robin with an capital Y.
Jeez.
Gee. Okay. Brian in FC. Robin on camera. Mark on Jigger. Okay. And, well, Leon giving me a bit of direction too. And Andy and Aaron also back in FC, back in control room doing editing and things. And we'll meet all the crew one of these days. But come and join us again this afternoon at 3 o'clock Central African time. That's 2 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time. And I'm sure you'll find a time zone thing on the computer somewhere. Google it to be able to see the time zone in your area. I'm not too sure. I can't keep it in my head. But thanks for joining us, and I'm hoping that things will be a little bit more interesting from this afternoon onwards when the questions are up and running, and I'm looking forward to that. So from me and all of us here and in this little corner of Africa, bye-bye everybody.